You're always a natty dresser. I do like the spotted tie.
Yes. I like yours, too.
Thank you so much. What about at home? Do you go around in an old sack, Nigel?
I look like a sack of potatoes at home. I get into a tracksuit and fiddle about and get as dirty as possible. I don't know quite why. I like to relax a little bit at home. But when I'm out, I like to wear a bit of a suit, a bit of a spotted tie, and a shirt from someone who you know, matter of fact, because I bought this shirt today from a man called Mr. Fish.
Mr. Fish, the
and
weatherman.
He said that you once judged a beauty competition at Butlins with him.
Yes, I cannot deny this.
19 yeah.
It was, yes. If not later. Anyway, we won't dwell on that one. You always do have the appearance, and why not, of being the perfect English gentleman. Is the real you a bit of a bounder?
Well, no, I'm a perfect... No, I'm not a perfect English gentleman at all. I'm not even a gentleman.
Are you English?
I'm English. Yes. No, I suppose I can be a bit of a bounder. I remember I did something to my dad once which was awful. And I regretted it, having done it. You know, if you can do awful wind-ups on people. And I did one on Dad when I rang up. I was at home one weekend and I went up to the phone box and pretended I was from Panorama, coming to do an interview. Oh. So when I got home, he said, "You won't believe this, but bloody BBC are coming to do another interview." And I said, "Really, really?" And he got into a tie and a suit. It was a very hot summer's day. and he remained like that all day. See? Went up to the phone booth and I said, "I'm terribly sorry, we seem to be a bit lost." He then gave me instructions how to get to my own house. It was very funny. And then at 5 o'clock, he said, "These bloody people, they aren't here." And I said, "It was me." And it was silence. He said, "Get me a large whiskey." And it never be mentioned again.
I'm not surprised. You mentioned your father, and we must remind those two people who don't know that he is the Attorney General, Sir Michael Havers, and your granddad was a High Court judge, and a lot of it in your family. What was their reaction, then, to you becoming an actor?
Well, it was all right, actually, because Dad had a good friend called Kenneth Moore, and he worked out that Kenneth was a nice guy, had a bit of money, and did quite well, so he thought maybe acting wasn't such a bad thing.
But the general opinion of actors in the family was not quite so kind, I suppose.
No, not really. I think my grandfather thought I was would probably be so poor by the time after a year or so that I'd give it up anyway, so that was going to be all right. Mm. But in fact, he was a nice guy too, and he was very encouraging. All the family were very encouraging.
Well, that's nice.
That was good.
Do you see eye to eye with your father politically?
I might have a glass of water. Think about it. Very nice water, that. It's unlike BBC water, which tastes like boiled pencils. Anyway, that's I divulge. Now, Dad, yes, not always, no. I try not to talk about it too much, because I think he gets a bit bored with talking politics at home. Mm. But I'm a great fan, for instance, of Ken Livingstone, you see. And that gets zero reaction at home. If I say I think Ken Livingstone's great, I get complete silence, which means that maybe he doesn't approve. But he's pretty open-minded, sort of a chap. And he's a good friend, which is nice. So I reckon I can discuss.
Well, legal people must have an open mind anyway,
yes, can you imagine it, being a kid and having such a legal background. If ever I told a little lie, he just could tell like that. And I was always cross-examined over the breakfast table what I was going to do today.
Did you sit like that?
A bit of that went on. And I said, well, I'm going to go down and do a bit of work here. And they said, "No, you're not." You know exactly what I was doing. That's fine.
Well, in the television series Don't Wait Up, your television father, Tony Britton, you have a lot of sparring with him, of course, that's the whole story. Anything like that in real life?
What, with my dad, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose, you see, when I was at drama school, my father had a flat in the Temple, which is where all these lawyer chaps hang out, you know. It's their little area. And I used to use this flat because it was quite low rent. I think I had to pay Dad a bit of rent, of course, but it was quite low. And people would come and stay the night, and then they'd be there a month, you know how it is. "Can I stay a night now?" "Sure, sure." 3 months later, they're still there, and the flat would fill up. I remember one occasion when Dad came on a Sunday, a bit unfair to do that to me, I thought, but on the Sunday, and there were 14 people staying. And there were 20 shirts in the bath, I remember, sort of soaking quietly. And he said, "I want this place cleaned up in 40 minutes. I never... 14... Yeah, we did it then. We had to face the music, it was called.
All fellas, of course.
Yeah.
It's like when you go into a flat that is shared by women, as far as I remember, anyway, it was just... all you could see was knickers everywhere, I mean, hanging on lines.
Yeah.
I've never shared a flat with a lot of guys. It must be pretty... Yeah.
There's a lot of shirts in the bath. Mm. We didn't worry about knickers, really. We just had to wear the same ones for quite a long time.
Yes, you're getting a round of applause for that. I can't... imagine why.
We don't know.
Now, you were impressively fit in Chariots of Fire, weren't you? Did you have to train very hard for that?
I did. We had about 2 months training. Paid, too, which is quite good. I thought that helped a bit. Every time you did a bit of that, I thought, oh, it's a bit of money coming, thank God. And I had a fortunate accident doing that because I had to learn to hurdle, which was quite difficult, having never hurdled before. Never dreamt of hurdling. The people at school who did that I thought were completely mad. I mean, running's bad enough, but to have to jump over those awful sticks in the way, I mean, why do it?
You hurt yourself?
And I hurt myself. I had a bit of a tumble. I got wrapped up in a hurdle. You know, when you hit one, and you're running quite fast, it tends to go along with you. And you get involved in the hurdle quite a lot. And I stuck up my left hand, and I heard a sort of snap, and I dislocated my shoulder. That's not really much of a problem, but I did remember thinking, my wrist is feeling really uncomfortable. Anyway, I went to a hospital, and they put that back. They gave me an injection, went to sleep, woke up, it was back, and I thought, oh, great, and straight out again.
Oh, right.
Back again, but then I thought, my wrist is really... I never told them about the wrist, you see. But in fact, I'd broken that as well. So it goes off at a bit of an angle.
Let's have a look. Can we get a shot of it?
It's got a little bent. A bent there.
Not a pretty sight.
And I also broke the temple. It was a real mess, this wrist, this hand, but I didn't say anything to David Putnam or Hugh Hudson, the director and the producer, because I thought I might not be in the film. And in fact, because you can't really play a 1924 athlete with the plaster on your left hand. I worked that one out.
Yeah.
So I just did a lot of this and never told anybody, and it mended. It's mended quite well. I mean, it's not bad. It works.
Yes.
Good as a business.
Still grasp a gin and tonic?
There's not much fun going on there. And anyway, David Putnam, when the film was over, he said, I told him about this, and he went white. He said, Christ, you're not going to sue me, are you? And then I pretended I was going to take him for $1 million. And he said, on to the lawyer. No, it was all a bit of a wind-up. But it has mended really remarkably well. And when I was in Australia once... just to cut a long story, make it even longer.
Yeah.
I was having a bit of dinner with some people, and they were doctors, and one guy said, look at that wrist. And I said, yes, this is the wrist. He said, my God, I've been teaching people about it. I've never seen one like that. And my wrist is now famous in Australia.
It'll end up in a little glass jar, I expect.
It's me in a glass jar. I'm going to donate it to this doctor in Australia.
Before the clean-cut image struck, you had your time as a dropout, didn't you?
Well, it was sort of short, fairly short. I didn't drop out. I just wore the dropout clothes. When you say dropout, you mean sort of hippie type?
Yes.
Yes, I was sort of hooray hippie. But I used to wear those flowered things, but they were made for me. But I used to have a bell around here. We always have to wear bells. And I got a write-up in a local paper because I went to a tennis match. And the guy writing about the tennis match said it was interrupted by a couple of hippies and their bells. And that was me, my brother.
That was you?
Yeah. It's my first sort of thing in a newspaper. I was very proud of that.
Yes, I'm sure. Was that about the time you formed your own pop group?
Yeah, I had a bit of a pop group. We were unbelievably bad, and I was amazed that we made a record.
Who was in the group?
My brother, myself, and 2 friends.
What did you call yourself?
January.
January?
Yes. It's a very inspiring name. And we made this record.
It's a good start.
Not very good. I played occasionally at home, and when I'm a bit drunk and things, I get it out, and people go, not that again. And I always think that they haven't ever heard of it.
Well, they broadcast you the record
yes,
you made?
it sold 3,000 copies.
It's not bad.
When it was first, there was a programme that used to introduce new records on the radio, and my father was sailing somewhere, and he had it all primed up, the little radio, said, this is my son's record. And at that moment, a wave hit the boat, and the radio went overboard. So he never heard it.
Somebody was trying to tell you something, I suspect.
It was doomed. I said, I think that record's doomed from the start.
I hear you're working with Michael Caine.
Yes. I've had a wonderful experience with Michael. He's playing my father. Funny enough, he looks quite like my father. In a sort of 10 years ago, not dissimilar. Making a very good film, all-English film, with a man called Jeff Reeve producing it, who's an all-English man, English money, English finance, and a new director, Simon Langton. It's a great story, and I hope it's going to be very good.
The only thing I don't like about that is Michael Caine's the same age as me, and I wouldn't like to play your father. Anyway, think about that.
Well, he's very lived in, Michael, isn't he?
Yes, he's been around.
Yes. That's a nice way of putting it.